This regular meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 6:29 p.m. I am very pleased that you have taken time to join us in this meeting. As the Judson Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals and policies and oversee the management of the district. We are responsible for approving budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and to listen to reports from the superintendent. We are not here to make administrative or management decisions pertaining to the daily operations of the district. This is the responsibility of the superintendent. In compliance with the state government code on open meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. This is a meeting in the public, not a meeting of the public. And as our guests, you are welcome to observe and listen. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of the Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings are recorded accurately, I may have to ask for order periodically should I notice that disruptions are interfering with our recording capabilities. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD, and we will establish a quorum now. Board, you may proceed. And we do have a quorum 6. We have established a quorum, and to my left is Dr. Ball.
Welcome.
At this time, we would like to acknowledge any visitors. Oh, I'm sorry. Invocation. We need to do our invocation and our pledges. Please stand.
You may bow your head. Heavenly Father, we come today before you to serve our students. We ask you to look upon us as we try to do your work. We ask you to guide us to make the best decisions possible, and that you keep reminding us that the reason we do our work is for the students. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. At this time is provided for citizens to address the board on issues or concerns. A person may speak one time for a period of 3 minutes. Presentations shall be informative only. No board action will be taken. A complaint or a charge against an officer or an employee of the district is not allowed in an open session. Complaints and concerns should be addressed by campus and/or district administration. If your topic involves a personnel matter, a student matter, or if you contend that your legal rights have been violated or board policy not followed, we have specific grievance proceedings, DGBA, thank you, legal and local for these matters, and now is not the appropriate time to discuss these matters. Also, as a reminder, you are not allowed to refer to any individual by name. We respectfully ask that you refrain from making personal attacks or rude or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous. The presiding officer shall determine whether a person who wishes to address the board has attempted to solve a matter administratively, and if not, the person shall be directed to the appropriate policy to seek resolution before bringing the matter to the board at a subsequent meeting. Citizens wishing to receive a response from concerns presented to the board must provide written documentation. The board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. And with that, our first speaker is Marilyn McKinney, President of the Judson Education Foundation.
Ma'am, you have association.
Good evening. I'm speaking to you this evening as the president of the Judson Education Association. Numerous of our members are here this evening, and some individuals who are not part of our organization. Technically, I can't speak on your behalf, but I'm happy to speak on your behalf anyway. $1,930 for 6 years or above. That's inadequate. I'm very sorry, but it's inadequate. I know it's tough, but you see, when you drive around the district and you see this massive building going on all over, when you look at your website and you look at the budgets for the last 5 years, you'll find that the local revenues have gone up $40.2 billion. In the last 5 years, my salary as a teacher for Judson ISD, and their salaries also, have maybe increased a little over $2,500. Go to HEB. What was $1 5 years ago has gone up to $3, if not $5. $1,900 won't make it. You heard the frustration on the parts of the people who have chosen Judson. They have poured their hearts into this district. They have been loyal. This will be my 35th year in the district. A lady sitting next to me has been in the district for 15 years. She makes $1,000 more than a beginning teacher. These pay discrepancies, these inequities need to be addressed. They need to be fixed. Look at the surveys that you sent out. 2 major reasons why people leave: money and discipline. You could have paid me a whole lot less than whoever you paid for those surveys, and I could have told you that. Every time we send out surveys, those are the responses we get. Money and discipline. I can't tell you where to find the money. I'm sorry. I keep asking myself, where has the money gone? I think I figured out where it went, but I'm not quite sure. It's essentially a shell game, which gives me concerns. You've got to find some way to fix this. I can drive across Cibolo Creek and make anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 more simply by changing school districts. The state-winning girls track coach left here a year or so ago, crossed the county line. She made $9,000 more in Cibolo. I can turn right on O'Connor Road instead of left to come to work, and I'll make $3,000 to $4,000 more. Judson has typically, historically, in the good years, we've been maybe 4th out of 16 in the county. Normally, we're 7th or 8th, but we are slowly but surely dropping lower and lower. I still have a minute. I know how it works. That doesn't mean it's over. It means I have a minute left.
That was 3.
Was it?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you for your consideration of my remarks.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Vanessa G.
Good evening, Dr. Ball and JISD board members. My name is Vanessa Garza. I am a Judson ISD educator with 14 years experience. Today I represent my fellow Judson ISD educators that are here with me. I believe the board's compensation proposal does not allow for our teachers and support personnel to match the pace of San Antonio's increasing cost of living. According to GoBank rates, the cost of living in San Antonio has jumped 26.76%. or $12,350 from 2017 from 2018. Among the country's 50 largest cities, San Antonio is ranked 10th for the steepest hike in the cost of living. Couple that with the rising cost of healthcare and no pay increase last year, plus teachers paying out of their own pocket for supplies and materials, the district proposed pay increase falls short. We don't want to lose our fine Judson ISD educators. I would ask you to reconsider the budget to include higher increases in salaries and also to include a retention bonus like you have done in previous years to help offset the cost of living and rising insurance. While I understand Judson ISD's stance on fiscal conservatism, I must remind you that many districts in Texas are offering 5 to 10% compensation packages with additional retention bonuses for teachers with 5 or more years experience. Last week, Bernie ISD offered their teachers a 6% pay increase. San Marcos ISD offered 4% for teachers that had 5 or more years experience. Sheldon ISD gave 10% increases and 15% for teachers that had 20 or more years experience. Northeast ISD did give 3%, but they are also giving retention bonuses from $600 to $1,200 based on years experience. Harlandale ISD gave 5% for 6 to 15 years experience and 6% for more than 16 years. Spring ISD also proposed 6.9 increase for teachers. How is it that these districts who are forced with some of the same issues that Judson ISD faces, but yet they can confidently release these raises? I would imagine that it's because they understand that the state is watching how each district uses these funds. Public school employees were addressed this legislative session. I was actually present in Austin in March. I stood with my fellow public school educators to ask for more funding. I actually did speak to state legislators about the importance of funding public school education. What will Judson ISD do? Judson ISD is the 4th largest district in Bexar County. What will Judson ISD do to honor their quality educators? We are passionate about what we do, and we challenge the district to provide a competitive salary increase that not only will retain the best, but will attract the best as well. Thank you for your time.
It's not resetting.
I'll use my phone. Hold on. We broke the timer. I can.
Our next speaker is Cindy Elizondo.
Good evening, Dr. Ball, board members. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you. I speak not only as a teacher of 15 years who lives in the district. I'm a taxpayer. I've also been a parent in the district, so I can see many sides. As I drive around the different parts of our district the past few years, I've noticed much construction going on all around the district. This construction which continues giving new resources to Judson. As a taxpayer, I've noticed my tax payments rise, often which also go to Judson. My pay goes to my classroom for things I need all the time, and I don't begrudge it because we need it. Surveys go out each year, and money does come up as an issue of why we're losing our district's most experienced teachers year after year. We need to look deeply at the pay of our teachers, especially those that have been loyal employees to the district, have stayed with the district during the long years of little or no pay increases. We are all here for our students. Being able to retain your trained, reliable, loyal, experienced teachers is so much better than having to recruit, train, keep hiring, recruit, train, keep hiring year after year. I've heard insanity is repeating the same thing over and over, expecting to get a new result from the same actions. Let's start a new era here at JISD and stop the insanity by keeping our seasoned veteran teachers with a pay raise that will make a difference. The difference being our students will be keeping the best teachers in Texas and not have a rotating selection year after year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Elizondo. Flor Diaz.
Good evening, board members. My name is Flora Diaz, and I am one of your teachers. I am here to speak about the proposed raise for the upcoming school year. I am aware that the state approved $5,000 raise that was to the discretion of the district. I am also aware of the proposed 3.1% and the 3.7%, which is 1630 or 1930, which if you divide these numbers by the amount of months we get paid, we would only get paid 135 or 160 a month. Frankly, that's not enough. Compared to the 416 it would be monthly. With this being said, I work at one of the Title I schools with the lowest income families, meaning I not only provide materials for my classroom, but I also provide materials for my students throughout the year. As you are approving the raise for teachers, take into consideration that with this low raise, teachers still have to pay insurance, taxes, and the cost of living, which, as you stated before, goes up as well. And this small percentage is not enough to maintain ourselves and our family. Please also take into consideration the teacher retention in the district. The school I am at lost about 5 teachers throughout this year. That is not counting the possibility of the teachers that will not be coming back. Please take this into consideration as you approve as you approve the budget. Thank you so much for your time.
Kevin Haddis.
Well, you want the good part or the bad part first? Let's do the bad part. The bad part is I'm very upset about the press release that went out. I stated that earlier. It was wrong. That said, let's go to the good part. The good part is you guys and Dr. Ball have done a lot to make a lot of cuts in the district. Millions they've cut to try to come up with money for you guys. But when we were going through the budget meetings, I came in and told you it's not enough. And I was right. I asked you not to do the minimum. You're doing the minimum with a little couple $100,000 sprinkled on top. And I think we can do better. So keep trying to look for the money. As soon as this budget's approved, let's get the next one done. Let's know in January that we can pay these people more next year. Let's get the word out. Because if we do that, we can convince these guys to stay here. And that's who we're fighting for. We take care of these guys, they'll take care of our kids. Thank you.
Irma Rubio.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Board, for receiving us to share our points of view as educators. Thank you, Dr. Ball and Board President, Ms. Parshall. I'm a 30-year art teacher in the district. I work at Wagner High School. And I suppose for me, what I would just really ask you to look at is the competitiveness of our district. It's really enticing to look at SAISD, who before all of this legislation passed easily pays $3,000, slightly more a year to educators. As an art teacher, I do spend a lot, probably like at least 8% of my annual income on supplies that are a little more exotic and specialized for my students. So I'm personally investing in my students. I love the students of our district so much. I wish you all understood. I'm sure you do. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak it like that. The quality of artistry in our students is extraordinary. We have prodigy level students in our district. In the visual arts, I can speak to that. And they really merit educators of high quality. You know, I'm just being here in a way just to testify as a qualified educator. I have a master's and PhD level education in art education. And at the moment, I am looking at other districts presently. Like today, I've been perusing and organizing my documents so that I can apply to Alamo Heights and to SAISD. But you could keep us if you would just really, there's so much expertise in the world to enable excellent boards such as yourselves to organize funds and to understand the dynamics of like the economies of a district. There's a way to go about it. And I know that you respect us. You have the longevity of these career length teachers that have come to testify, and it's not court of law. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm speaking that way. But it's here to share their testimony, right? They wouldn't stick around and advocate for all of us here if they didn't really believe in the quality of our district and in the students that we work with. So our students deserve the best. We can get them into really fine schools. I mean, on my end, art schools, and they can really flourish and represent our communities in the future. It's win-win. So anyhow, I just appreciate your time, and all colleagues here in solidarity with you. I hope we get a dignified wage that's competitive and enables the thriving and the growth of our community and our students. Thank you.
Jorge Garza.
Good evening, Dr. Ball, Ms. Bashal, board members. A lot of statistics, a lot of things has gone out. A lot of my peers have spoken and given a lot of facts. What I want to share with you tonight is some experiences that I've had. I happen to be blessed and fortunate that teaching is a second career. And so I have the resources to be able to take the small pay raise that the board is going to give or is thinking of giving. But I want to share over the last 6 years being in Kirby and at Kitty Hawk some stories of some of my peers that don't have that particular opportunities that I had. I've loaned money to some of my peers because they were short at the end of the month. Another time I was at a meeting. We were working on our plans for the next week, and one of my peers gets a phone call. She takes her phone and turns it off, silences the phone, and goes, "I've told them already I can't pay that credit card bill. Why are they still calling me?" And that shouldn't be happening. That shouldn't be happening. Another time working on the a fundraiser this year that we have, the teacher I was working with, again, goes, "George, I've had $50 left, and it's a week till payday. Do I get food or do I get gas?" And I hear these stories over and over again. And the pay raise that is being considered right now is just not enough for our teachers. Maybe we need to do something else to teach allow our teachers to understand budgeting and things like that. I know that not everybody takes their money and handles it the same way, but just some training on how to budget, how to be able to make some investments on their own, because TRS is not going to be enough. And in Texas, we don't put into Social Security, and I really would like to encourage the board to consider things like that, where we can teach our teachers how to make the best out of the money that they do get from the district. Thank you very much.
Alton Crane.
Good evening, board and administration. There's been a lot of conversation about the pay, so I'm not going to talk about that. It's disappointing. I'm about to cry right now. Not really, but earlier one of the speakers stated that people leave the district for 2 reasons. One of them being money, the other one being discipline. I want to talk a little bit about the discipline. As an educator with the district for over 15 years, I've seen a lot of administrative changes. Also seen a lot of good staff leave. Also seen a lot of good people treated really badly. I would like to just make the board aware of how difficult it is to actually stand before you. Most of the employees have to file a grievance, and they delay us for years. Sometimes we don't even get to speak We lose our rights in courts because this happens, and it's still happening. We have a couple of staff now that are trying to get to you, but we can't. It's hard, but we keep trying. So it's enough been said about the money. People leave, man, because they have to pay for things for their families. People have to eat. So I'm just asking that the board would look at how, when you guys are hearing grievances, come in and check, see who's filing grievances, and see how these things line up with how the schedule is supposed to be followed when it comes to hearing the grievances. It shouldn't take a year. People shouldn't lose rights. Right now, people are being retaliated against just for being honest. People lose salaries, they get reassigned. That's just how it is. And then you wonder why we leave. That's what they want us to do. It seems that way anyway. But those who like the truth will keep coming back, keep trying to talk. And I hope y'all will listen, because it would be sad to lose another tenured teacher because y'all just won't correct the people that are doing wrong. It's sad, but thank you.
That concludes our citizens to be heard. We'll move on to our consent items. If there are any items that the board wishes to pull, please let me know. Item 4A, consider and take action regarding approving board minutes from the special meeting held on May the 7th, the regular meeting held on May the 16th, and the special meeting held on May the 28th, 2019. Item B, consider and take action regarding approving monthly financial information as of May the 31st, 2019. Item C, consider and take action regarding approving the expenditures equal to or greater than $50,000. Item D, consider and take action regarding approving budget transfers across expenditure functions categories. Item E, consider and take action regarding approving amendments to the budget for the 2019 fiscal year. Item F, consider and take action regarding approving the submittals for request for proposal 19-21 for a sod installation at Wagner High School. Item G, consider and take action regarding approving the ranking of the engineering firms for services related to testing and balancing phases of the construction at Kitty Hawk Middle School. Item H, consider and take action regarding approving the interlocal cooperation agreement with Alamo Area Metro SWAT Team. Item I, consider and take action regarding approving a memorandum of understanding for the 2019-2020 school year with the Texas State University of San Marcos and Judson Independent School District. Item J, consider and take action regarding approving the amended calendar for the Judson Early College Academy for the 2019-2020 school year. Item K, consider and take action regarding approving the 2019-2020 school year staff development minutes waiver. Item L, consider and take action regarding approving College Board's college readiness and success contract. Then we will be voting on items A through H, J through L.
Motion. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Macias and seconded by Mr. LaFoyle. Let me clear the board and we can proceed to vote. Motion carries unanimously for items A through H, J through L. Mr. Macias, item I.
just for the audience, there were several more I wanted to pull, but we're here for budget, so I'm going to not talk about these other items. But I did want to talk a little bit about the one that I did pull. It looks like a great opportunity. So talk a little bit about what we should be able to see from that relationship with Texas State University.
Yes, sir. This item is in regard to some training for our middle school students on vocabulary strategies and all for our teachers to receive that training. One of the things that we continue to focus on is making sure that our students are able to read. So this is to arm our teachers with more tools, more strategies in order to help our students.
And is it, what's the cost for the program? Is it free? Or?
I'm going to ask Ms. Davis to help me with that, remembering.
There is no cost, sir. It's a study that they conduct, and the training that they provide our teachers, they collect data, and that's the only cost to us, that one of us will provide data, so the time that the employee takes to provide the data.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity, so congratulations.
Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion made by Mr. LaFoille, seconded by Mr. Macias, and you may proceed to vote. Mr. LaFoille. Press confirm. Yes, and then confirm. Try it one more time. First, yes, and then, oh, okay. Motion passes unanimously for item I. We'll now move on to our discussion and consideration of action items. Item 5A, consider and take action, possible action regarding the approval of the proposed budget for the 2020 fiscal school year. Dr. Ball?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to ask if we could take these out of order and if we could please discuss B first, if possible.
Yes, ma'am. Let us go to item 5B. Consider and take action, possible action regarding the approval of the proposed compensation plan for the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Ball.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So I know that we've discussed a lot of information, but what we have is some information in regards to our compensation plan that we presented to the board. And I do believe that there is one sheet. Did we hand that out that changed? So I just want to make sure everybody has that one sheet. I left one part out. So I wanted to see if the board had any specific questions that they would like to ask of me or my team in regards to the compensation plan. Yes, ma'am. It includes the pay scale for the teachers, nurses, and librarians. It includes auxiliary staff. It includes the stipends. It includes the number of days that individuals would work. It includes information on paraprofessionals. It's the entire component of pay for bus drivers. Substitute rates, you will notice on there that there is an increase for substitutes. That is something that we have continued to struggle with in getting substitutes. That also puts an additional burden on our teachers because many times they have to cover other individuals' classes when their colleague isn't there. So in an effort to try to get more substitutes, we would have a small increase in the substitute pay. The feeder, I want to talk about page 27. The feeder pattern that we call Wagner does not just include the Wagner teachers, but includes the J-Care teachers and any teacher, any campus that feeds into Wagner. So that's noted there on page 27. Also, adding some additional stipends for elementary. One of the things that has come about is that elementary teachers don't always get the compensation for the after-school things, so we've added some also on page 27 there. So I am very open to discussing any of the items on the compensation plan.
And Dr. Ball, could you just touch upon the special education?
Yes, ma'am.
Numbers?
Yes, ma'am. So one of the things that we had noticed is that the inclusion and that the teachers that are in life skills, PPCD, Apple, BAC, those are some very difficult positions that a lot of times you're having to do tasks that are very difficult. So we wanted to make sure that we compensate those individuals at a different rate than being an inclusion aid or resource.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask for Mr. Cartinez's assistance so we can get to discussion. I want to get to the discussion page so that. All right.
There we go.
And so electronically, board, when you are ready to discuss an item, you can just press request to speak. Is there any more discussion? Compensation. Oh, okay. All righty, let's see.
Oh.
That would be Mr. Macias. I thought I saw Mr. Macias's. Mr. Macias, go right ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate all the feedback today, and a lot of the sentiments that were presented are things that I've been thinking about as well. So it's good to be all on the same page. It's a very tough position that we're in as a board, as we're trying to utilize our resources, but honestly pay what's fair and what we should. In a perfect world, we wish we could pay more. I certainly do. But there are some things I think that we can do. And so in terms of compensation, I do want to, again, just put on record that I would like us to start examining the idea of a salary study with TASB. And so if I need to put that on the agenda later, I certainly will for our discussion. But I think that's definitely something that will help going forward. Teacher retention has always been a critical piece. The idea that insurance always outpaces the raises that we offer or the incentives that we offer is disheartening for our employees. So are there any potential options that include some support for insurance that the administrative team has looked at?
The team did look at it, and I will let the team speak also, but the team did look at it, and what we felt was best was to put the maximum amount into a raise, so teachers could have that for their salary to also use for TRS purposes. So when looking at different options, there is the option of, okay, we could give $10, additional per month. We thought it would be best just to maximize it into the most that we could do for a raise. But Mr. Atkins, if you'd like to add more to that?
Yes, ma'am. Also, at the last budget meeting, one of the things I think that was discussed was to put it in their salary so the employee would have the option of what they wanted to do. To give a $10 increase is about $251,000 cost to the district.
$10 increase to what?
To the district's contribution for health insurance. Yes, sir.
$500,000? I mean, $250,000?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. We talked about that in the budget meeting, and I remember that because the discussion was whether or not to put part of the raise into the insurance program as opposed to giving it to the employees. And I'm going to tell you now, I spoke up on that because we have so many employees that are either prior military or currently married to military, and they don't pay insurance. And I felt it was only fair to give everybody the money and let you all make the decision about what you wanted to do with your money, as opposed to us taking it and doing that. Because that was what was going to happen. It wasn't going to be separate from the raise. It was going to be part of the raise held back to be utilized for the insurance.
Yeah, and I agree. I certainly wanted to see what that information looked like, and so you. Thank you. So, I'm good. So what I want to do is actually get to the point where we're discussing potentially incentives, because as Ms. Eaton has already elaborated on, insurance is going to benefit everyone. So I wanted to get an idea of what that figure looked like, because if it's $250,000, if it's $500,000, if we're looking at doing incentives that are strategic in nature, I'm prepared to make that investment. I mean, it's a small investment compared to our $55 million that we have sitting in our fund balance, because we're going to keep experienced teachers. And so the incentive that I'd like to at least propose would be to target those teachers that are 6 years plus. We already know that our 1 through 5 years are a critical group, but they're already coming into the district at a higher rate when we hire them. So if there is an opportunity to sort of satisfy the discrepancy, inequity of compensation, it would be the 6 years plus. So to say to my colleagues, let's make an investment of $500,000 and divide that into a meaningful incentive, and only offer that incentive to those teachers that stay, and we could even make December like we've done before, that would have an impact. And again, we don't have money growing on trees. I know our resources are limited, but it would be an intelligent way to use our resources to keep the experienced professionals in the classroom, which ultimately will help with discipline, it will help with student success. I mean, we'll reach the bottom line. So that's sort of where I'm headed with this discussion, and I'll yield, but I just wanted to put that out
Mr.
there.
Macias, just for clarification, you're talking about a retention incentive?
I am, and for the 6 years plus. Yeah.
Dr. Ball.
I need some clarification just to make sure that we could bring you some information. Only teachers, not bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just need
that's
true clarification on that, because there's a lot of groups then.
Certainly. Right now, I would have to feel like we would need to evaluate other professional positions, but teachers, librarians, and nurses would fall under that same, because we give raises to that same subgroup. So if we did a retention incentive on top of the 1930 that we're doing now, we are committing to our experienced teachers, librarians, and nurses that we want them to stay in our district. And they're a very valued employee. But we need to do something. And I do believe, honestly, that our employees do realize we cannot pay them top tier like other districts do based on their student enrollment. But this is our opportunity to tell our employees, we're committed and we're behind you. And we're willing to make a small investment in retaining them. So to address your question specifically, I would say it would be teachers, nurses, and librarians at the onset. And if we can look at other things later, but that would be the first thing.
So what I will do is I'll work with the team, and Bill, you going to say something? Go ahead.
If the incentive is going to be in effect for anybody whose contract would start in July, it would have to be approved tonight.
And I would probably amend the motion to include that. It'll be an up and down vote. If we support it, we do. If not, we move forward. But it would be capped at $500,000, and then we just essentially would find those that qualify. We have $500,000 in the bank to put towards an incentive, and then we would divide that incentive based on what you'd come back and say, this is what it would break down to per employee. So again, I don't know what that looks like, but again, it's a gesture, and I think it's important that we do that.
Can I ask a question though? Because we talked about doing this in the budget meeting. We've had 2, 3, and I mean, why didn't you say this then? And then they could have worked it out, and we would have been able to present it. We talked about doing that very thing. The retention budget, the retention bonus that we would give, and I think it was going to be in December or January, to make sure that the teachers remain with us. So it confuses me, Mr. Macias, when we talk about stuff and then you present it in a format like this to make it seem like we're not trying to do our best to give our teachers a raise. We discussed that very thing. So it's very confusing to me, sir.
I'm sorry that you're confused, but I can't tell you what I'm thinking 2 meetings ago. So when the thought comes up and I'm here and
All right, colleagues.
well, all I can
I'm
say.
going to yield the floor now to Ms. Canoyer.
Thank you. I do want to echo a couple of things that I've heard tonight. One of them is when Ms. Pichelle said, thank you for coming to the meeting. I hope we see you at all our meetings. I hope we especially see you at our budget meetings. School finance is the most incredibly complicated set of crazy accounting stuff in the world. One of the things that not everybody understands is that when the state gives, our tax rate goes up, when we get more money in taxes, the state takes it away the next year. So when you talk about, oh gosh, all that growth, well, you know, next year they take away the money that they give us that is equal to that. So that's kind of why we're not able to keep putting money in the bank to be able to do some of these things. Mr. Atkins talked about all the things that they took away, and so while they talked about making sure that, you know, oh, teachers are going to get this wonderful raise and all this good stuff, but they took away our high school allotment, which entirely goes to fund JECA. They took away some of the other things, so now we have to kind of find money from what they did give us to cover some of those things. And so it's very difficult to sit here, and I do feel your pain. I hope you see that. I hope you see that all of us want to give more money, but when you don't have, you can't make a, what is it, blood out of a turnip, that kind of thing. The other thing is that not every district in the state gets the same amount of money in this increase. If you read any of the articles that came across, they showed how Northeast was getting this amount and so was getting this amount. You know, Bernie can give a great raise because they pay squat. So 6% of a little bit of nothing is a whole lot less than 3% of more. So, you know, we can't compare apples and oranges. What we can compare is what we did last year to what we do now. Hopefully, we're trying to stay fairly competitive with the schools around us. Hopefully, we're working really hard to get more students in our seats because more ADA means more money for more everything. And we need everybody's help to make sure our attendance is up and that kids are enrolling and that we have wonderful teachers at every school that will welcome them and make their families feel wanted. That's on all of us. That's why I personally go to so many things to meet parents, to talk to them and say, Judson's a great place, I want you here. So please keep coming, please keep sharing your ideas. Please know that not a single one of us is up here trying to mislead you. Nobody is deliberately putting out false information. We want to be as open and transparent. We now have, in case you didn't know, and I was the person behind this, making sure that every single board meeting has our board packet up there so that you can see in advance what we're discussing and what we're talking about. That's transparency. That gives you an opportunity, as soon as it's posted, to send questions to whomever the person is in charge of the topic that you're concerned about. We want to hear from you. We don't want you to all have to come to one meeting and feel like, you know, that's the only time you have a voice. We want to hear from you. So please, please keep coming back. Please pay attention. Watch the meetings at home. I understand sitting here is no fun. They were not great chairs. Been there, done that for many, many years also. But thank you. Thank you for your concern.
Ms. Eaton, you're next.
Well, actually, Ms. Canoyer just hit on what I was getting ready, huh?
She just stole your thunder?
I don't know how thunderous it's going to be, but she just hit on what I was going to bring up, which is the fact that not all the school districts get the same amount of money. Please trust me on that. And it's posted on the website. We have it on ours. Oh, it's on ours too, what everybody else received. There's some of them I would love to have received that money. It would have been great. Trust and believe when I tell you that I am all for paying our teachers. I love Judson. I didn't grow up in this district. I retired. I spent 28 years in the Army, but I retired in this district, and my grandchildren went through it, and I have some great-grandchildren that when you get them, if you need to, let me know. I'll be right there, any problems. So that discipline part won't be an issue. But anyway, we're going to do what we can do. But what I need you all to know is this. Some of the ideas that are being brought out here now, we discuss these in our meetings. You can go back and you can look at the tapes. There's a few teachers that are here. Your president of the Teachers Association, she comes to just about all our meetings. The only time she steps out is when we go into closed session. And she knows we discuss trying to come up with a way to do the bonuses. You know, so if there's another way that we can now go back and look again to attempt to do that, I'm all for it. But I just want you all to know that the rest of us are not just sitting up here doing nothing and sitting on our hands. We were trying. We did the best with what we were given to work with. And I know that's not a solution for giving you what you're asking for, but please know that we're not holding nothing back. We don't get paid anything, not a dime. In fact, we gave up some of the little money that they give us to go to mandatory training every year. We gave up some more of that. It wasn't much because they started out at only $5,000 a couple of years ago. We dropped it to $3,000, and I think we're down to what, $2,500 or something now? $3,500. And when we don't use, whatever we don't use, it goes back into the general pot. And as far as, I heard one teacher say that it shouldn't take a year to be able to speak to somebody on the board or get to us. I know that there are steps that are necessary to be taken, and the steps are actually to protect you as employees. Because if you have an issue going on and it turns into a grievance, and the grievance has to come before the board, if you've spoken to a board member about it to a great extent, and it's a serious issue, that board member then has to be excused from your hearing. And you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have an issue and we can't come up with enough people to hear it because everybody's already heard all of it without it going through the proper channels. But at the same time, you always, and Dr. Ball hates when I say this, but you always have the right to talk to a board member. Just let Dr. Ball know, or your principal. That's all we're asking. That's all. But there's no reason why any teacher should feel, or staff member should feel like they cannot talk to one of us. You guys, you vote. You elect us. I see people out there that I know live in my district. You elect us. We work for you, okay? And we work for the kids. So please, don't feel that way. And please know that we are doing what we can, and we will continue to do what we can to try and come up with some more money.
Thank you, Ms. Eaton. Ms. Perez.
Thank you. When I first came on board, in the very first budget meeting that I attended, we were looking at a $19 million deficit. So to go from that to what we're looking at tonight is a testament to the fact that you had a board and staff and administrators that were willing to roll up their sleeves and say, you know, how do we make this productive when there were certain things that on day one were totally off the table. I mean, I've been in a lot of different governmental settings when they look at $19 million deficits and they immediately go to a reduction in force. Okay, that was automatically going to be a no-starter with this board and this community. There was, discussions about reducing days for administrators, reducing, there were all types of ideas floated. But at the end of the day, we are boxed in somewhat to what the legislature passes and what the governor signs. Even from our last budget meeting to today, the numbers fluctuated from what was ultimately signed. What was discussed in a conference committee, what came out of a conference committee, or what was signed can sometimes and oftentimes be a moving target. And so a lot of what we're dealing with and why some of the numbers changed from 1,700 to a different number was because at our last conversation, the last amount of data we had to try to run the numbers with change from one day to the next. And so from, my viewpoint, we are dealing with a situation where in this state, the way school finance numbers, it can be very complicated, but I'm one that tries to just break it as simple as possible. It comes down to the number of bodies that are in the class. And we're in a community that is aging. I consider myself a young person, but even I'm an empty nester at this phase. I'm not going to contribute more bodies to the equation. A lot of people, as I walked from February to May, I met countless people that felt, and just not even in the context of Judson ISD, but just in the greater Bexar County equation, they felt that they could not even afford to live in our county anymore because they were being taxed out of their home. I vividly remember talking to a gentleman in Kirby as I was walking, and I knocked on 1,000 doors in that time. Personally knocked on 1,000 doors. And I heard people say, I don't even know if I can continue to live here anymore. I'm a senior citizen. All my children are grown. I'm here by myself. I'm a widower or whatever. And so these are people who are contributing to the pot of money in which we are forced to operate with. And, and I'm not one to point fingers, but someone made a big oops when they estimated we had more people in previous years than showed up, and it contributed to a $6.7 million oops. And the state of Texas is like the repo man that I gave you some stuff and I want my stuff back now. And so now we're dealing with 6.7 million less. And so, I'm personally one that tries to look at things, is it a glass half empty or glass, half full? But going from a 19 million down to where we are, which is almost as close to a balanced budget, given the miscalculation that we're able to give raises and not reduce any force, is something that we should applaud ourselves over. Can we do better? Absolutely. Are there studies that should be done to say how do we get more competitive so that we become a place where people, because when people move to communities, they ask, how is that school district? That is a question that people ask. Ask the realtors, okay? So what do we need to do internally to not only incentivize you, but also working with our communities to make sure that we still have affordability so people will move here? So with that, those are my 2 cents.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Mr. Macias?
Dr. Ball, the $6 million that we are having to pay back to the state, is it 7 or 6?
6.7.
Rounded up, $7 million.
Okay. That was based on the enrollment not meeting what was projected. So, yeah, so this year, though, and in subsequent years, we've been able to meet enrollment and even exceed. Does that also mean on the other side we've received additional revenue from the state?
I don't know if you would really call it additional. I would just call it the correct revenue that we have been receiving based on the number of our enrollment in ADA.
Well, and with the advent of our pre-K program, we should see higher enrollment numbers. Am I correct in that?
That is one of the goals, is to increase our enrollment, and not just because of pre-K, but because of a lot of the great things that are happening in our district. But I am hoping that with full day pre-K, that parents will see the benefit and also make it more convenient for them to choose Judson ISD.
It gives me a little confidence knowing that we will have, projected higher enrollment. I do feel that means that the state then will owe us some additional dollars because they didn't give them to us this previous year, because it's a lag, right? It's the following year?
Right, they didn't give them to us because we didn't have the students, so now they'll give them to us because we have the students.
Well, thank you for that clarity. What I'd like to do is to amend the motion to include the incentive. I'd like to motion that we include a $500,000 incentive to 6 years employees that are nurses, librarians, teachers, and also counselors for this fiscal year, or for the next fiscal year, I'm sorry.
Okay, so that we use $500,000 as the lump sum to be divided between teachers, counselors, librarians that all have, and nurses that all have 6 or more years of service.
As a true retention incentive, yes, ma'am.
To be paid in December?
Yeah, whatever the pleasure, but I think December would be good.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
There is an amended motion on the floor to amend the proposed compensation plan to include a retention incentive for teachers with 6+ years of service in the month of, to receive this incentive in the month of December. Am I correct, Mr. Macias? Teachers, counselors, nurses, and librarians.
The only way we could do this is from the fund balance. This time I don't see where I could find it from. The fund balance would have to be lowered by 500,000.
So there is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Mr. LaFoyle, did you second that?
I'll second that. I normally don't go for taking money out of our fund balance, but this is for the teachers.
Mr. Atkins, I'd like for you to please interject your opinion.
I would just like that the motion read that that's a cap. The $500,000 is a cap of the pot of funds for the...
It would not exceed $500,000.
Okay, thank you.
Then at this time, we have a motion and a second. We can proceed to vote. I'm sorry, is there discussion? Motion passes. We will now proceed to item 5A, consider and take possible action regarding approval of the proposed budget for the 2020 fiscal year.
Yes, I do believe that we've had lots of discussions about it. We've had 4 budget workshop meetings. We've had the most recent presentation that Mr. Atkins made tonight. Of course, I would still entertain any questions that anybody would have about it, but there is no other formal presentation about the budget. No, sir, we just approved the compensation.
Did we use the amendment, or was it the... We used the amendment, didn't we? We still have to approve the motion. We need the motion for the compensation. We haven't done the compensation.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, we have to vote
On item 5B, we need to vote for the item that is on the agenda, including the, okay, all right. At this time, we are going to vote on regarding the approval of the proposed compensation plan for the 2019-2020 fiscal year.
Didn't we just vote for that?
No, we voted on the amended motion. Now we have to vote on the motion.
Excuse me, we must vote on the amended item first, and then we will vote on the.
Yes, ma'am.
We are still on B, yes, ma'am. Okay.
I think I jumped the gun, sorry about that.
Not to exceed $500,000. We are voting to approve the proposed plan with the retention incentive for 6+ years, teachers, librarians, counselors, and nurses, to not exceed $500,000. That is what we're voting on now. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second by Mr. LaFoyle. Now we may proceed to vote.
It's double voted on. Mine too. Yes, yes, ma'am.
No, Renee's gonna vote.
Motion passes. We're going back now to item 5A
Yes, ma'am.
regarding the approval of the proposed budget for the 2020 fiscal school year. Dr. Ball?
Yes, ma'am. So we've had 4 budget meetings. We've had the most recent budget information that Mr. Atkins shared with you. I will entertain if there's any questions for myself or for the team. But I think that everybody has plenty of information on the budget.
Board, you may proceed to vote. Oh, do you have discussion? Go right ahead.
Thank you. I know that in the last meeting I asked about the IB program specifically. So what was your feedback regarding the IB program and the potential cost?
Right. So what we're doing with the IB program right now, we're still continuing to grow it. So those teachers are serving dual roles, not only being IB teachers, but also regular either English, history, whatever their teaching certification is. So we're maximizing those teachers right now to make sure that they also carry a full load.
So are we going to give it another year and evaluate how our efforts to get students in the program?
Yes, sir. Both Mr. Hernandez and Dr. Canthu are working, and they've developed a really good plan to make sure that we can continue to grow that. So we just need a little more time.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
If there is no further discussion, you may proceed to vote. Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't do the motion? Is there a motion, please? Motion made by Ms. Eaton and seconded by Mr. Macias. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously for the proposed budget. Item 5C, consider and take possible action regarding approving JISD board meeting date changes. Dr. Ball?
Yes, ma'am. As many of you are aware, the district was selected to be part of Holsworth, which we do consider that a great honor because it is some extensive training that we're receiving. That does require myself and at times some of my senior staff to be committed to some training that conflicts on the same days as our board meeting. So we have proposed a new schedule that's before you that we have those set as our meeting dates for the following school year.
My only question, Dr. Ball,
will everyone in the community be able to see those new dates on our website?
Yes, ma'am. We just been waiting to publish them until this was formally approved. But once this is formally approved, we have several things that we plan to do. We plan to put them on the master calendar. We plan to let it roll out on social media. So we have several ideas in regards to how we're going to change the notification to let everybody know.
Thank you. Any other discussion? You may proceed to vote.
I'm sorry, the only one that has the second Thursday is the first one, the first page.
I see what you're saying on these calendars to change it on here.
Yeah, that one has it, but all the other ones still had the third, no, flip the page.
Oh, flip the pages? Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, all the rest of them had the third Thursday.
Okay.
So they just going to have to change all those.
I see what you're, yes, ma'am. We will, the little star indicators. Yes, ma'am. We'll change these.
So second Thursday.
Most of the time it falls on the second Thursday, yes.
Right, right. This is okay.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to item 6, discussion items and reports. Item A, Superintendent Report. Dr. Ball.
Yes, ma'am. In your packet, everybody has the construction update. I don't know if there was any questions to that, but I think that that's was already provided to you. I don't think.
Does anyone have any questions?
I have one small question.
Yes, ma'am.
On Kirby, I know it's been raining a lot. Is that why they seemingly have kind of slowed down, or have they moved inside?
I would
Dr. Fields, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. I would tell you that that project is on time, matter of fact, a little bit ahead of time. So even the weather days that they may be accumulating from the rain haven't really affected. They're moving at a really good pace.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Yes,
Fields. I go by there, to see the progress, and
it looks real nice.
It does.
Yes, ma'am.
It does. Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm excited.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Ball, the district survey results for the 2018-19 school year.
Yes, ma'am. I don't see her, I know, but I know there she is. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. At the end of the school year, excuse me, not the end of the school year, it was in March. In March, I asked all staff members to take a survey. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that Judson ISD has done it through TASB. I know that Judson ISD is not new to surveys or anything like that, but they did this through TASB because we wanted to make sure that individuals felt that it truly is anonymous. It is an anonymous information. I don't get any special privileges, so wanted to share this information. The way I've handled our surveys is a little bit different. What we will be using this is through our ESAC committee to really look at this data to make changes as needed in our district. So we have a TASB representative with us today that will share some of the highlights of the survey.
Hi, we had a little miscommunication about the PowerPoint, so it's getting loaded, but I'll start by saying I'm Janelle Guillory. I'm an assistant director in TASB's. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm also recovering from a cold, courtesy of my 3-year-old. So I'm an assistant director in TASB's HR Services Division, and we conducted your employee survey this year. I'm glad to get to speak to you about it this evening. Sorry. First, I'll cover some administrative information about how the survey was done. And it was conducted in March of this year. And we sent out email invitations to your employees, an initial invite along with several follow-ups to non-responders. Perfect, thank you. Catch up. It's thinking. And for employees that don't regularly use district email, so that's often auxiliary staff, Paper surveys were also an option that were collected by the district and then submitted to us for data entry to preserve that confidentiality. So the benefit of having us administer it is that extra layer of confidentiality between your employees responding, us collecting, collating, and providing the report of the data, and you seeing that answer. Having that extra confidence in employees helps boost response rates because they feel that there is that security, they can provide honest answers, which is what you really want at the end of the day. So this year, 2,624 employees participated. That's an 80% response rate, which is quite good for employee surveys. Typical industry-wide is 60 to 70% target, and so you're well above that. And often what we see is that response rates improve over time as districts do this repetitively, in part because employees know the process and their supervisors know to give reminders, but also it happens when districts communicate what they've done with that data. And that can be a way to boost participation because employees get buy-in in, I said this on the survey and they showed me what happened with that information. Your demographics for the respondents, broken down by job type. Teachers were by and large the largest group, 53% of respondents, which exactly matches your employee demographics. They are the largest group. Following that were campus professionals and instructional aides, which also matches, as well as auxiliary support. So this all goes to show that the data does match your employee demographics relatively well. It's not identical, but it does mean that all of your job types were represented in the data. As far as time with the district, there was a wide variety, so again, it matches and reflects your employees. About a third have been here for 4 to 9 years, but 12% have been here for less than 1 year, and 4% have been here 25 years or more, and I know we heard from some of those staff earlier. As far as work locations, the elementary schools contributed the largest number of respondents, which is again what we'd expect, followed by the high schools. That makes up the largest number of staff. Excuse me. Moving to the rest of the survey, we can talk about opinions that were provided across a variety of items, starting with factors that are important in an individual's job satisfaction. Respondents saw a list of 11 or 12 items. They could check off 5 that were important to them on a daily basis in their job satisfaction. The top 3 in your district were compensation and benefits, respectful treatment of employees, and job security. These were all selected by at least half of respondents. But that doesn't mean the other factors weren't important. In the full report, you'll see the list. Even the lowest ones had about a third, so they are still a decent chunk of employees. But it does give you somewhat of a ranking of how things shake out. The bulk of the items on the survey were asked in the form of a scale. Employees saw a list of statements in a topic, and they either strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagreed with that item. There's also no opinion if it just didn't apply. What I'll be showing you are the highest item in each topic and the lowest item so that you see the range of responses. And we'll talk about any that there were ties or some kind of outliers that I noted. For job satisfaction, 97% there was a tie, like the work they do, and the same percent said that the work is meaningful to them. The lowest item, 71%, so this is a situation where the lowest still had a majority agree, but it was lower than the other items, would recommend the district to a friend as a good place to work. For working conditions, 85% agreed that they work in an environment that's safe, and 69% said that they have the equipment, tools, and supplies they need to do their job. For compensation and benefits, we do see a wider range. 83% said that leave time was adequate, and the same percentage said that they get help with problems or questions on benefits when they need it. The other benefits item was also over 80%, but the compensation items were considerably lower. 34% of respondents agreed pay is fair for the work done, and the same percent believe pay is competitive with local districts. You've already heard plenty about that, and I will say that House Bill 3 is going to shake all of this up anyway for next year as far as how people will feel, what other districts are doing. So moving from pay to relationships. Who we work with on a daily basis can really make or break our workday, and 93% of your respondents like the people they work with. 85% say that their team works well together. Moving up a level to their supervisors, 85% say that they're allowed to make decisions within their scope of authority. And this can really be read as a flag for micromanagement. And the good news is 85% of employees feel that they can do their job without too much hassling. The lower items were 74% agreement for receiving useful feedback on performance and the supervisor making timely decisions. Then up a further level, relationship with the superintendent. 87% agree that the superintendent cares about students, and 65% say they were comfortable approaching the superintendent with questions or concerns. And this was one where the lowest was a bit of an outlier because the next lowest was 75%, so there's a bit of a jump there. It wasn't kind of a smooth progression among the items. Staying at that central office level, we asked about district communications. 90% said that the district shares important news and events with staff. Oh, and 67% said that they have a way to express concerns to leaders. And this is another item where the survey is one method of doing that, but not all employees do it the first year, not all feel that buy-in yet. So that's an item that often increases if a survey is done on a regular basis and employees see results of that. For district leadership, 72% believe that, or they trust the leadership team to act in student best interests. 62% believe the leaders value the employees of the district. For campus environment, we started narrowing down the group of respondents. Up through here, all respondents were eligible for all the questions. Here we looked at just teachers, campus professionals, and instructional aides. So 88% of those people who responded said the principal treats employees with respect. For the lower one, there was a tie, 77%, said they get the information needed from campus leaders, and they said that their campus is clean and properly maintained. Curriculum and instruction, we further narrow it, now just teachers. And there was a tie for the top at 88% agreement. 88% said that they have the opportunity to collaborate with colleagues, and the same percent said data is available for their instructional decisions. 51% were satisfied with resources for teachers of special populations. We do this survey for about 25 districts a year, not enough to get a good benchmarking sample like we do with salary surveys, but I'll say that this teachers of special populations item and compensation are routinely the lowest items on every survey. So just for some context, it doesn't mean that they're not a concern, but it does help to know that it's not atypical. Another question that is not on the form of a scale is what percent of your instructional decisions are data-driven? Only 8% said that less than half of their decisions are data-driven, and 46% said that at least 90% are. And the rest fell out relatively evenly distributed. I thought the 3% that said 60 to 69% was interesting. Just as a data nerd, I thought it was odd that there was only one little sliver. Student discipline, again, we're sticking just with teachers. 71% agreed that their principal provides leadership in setting and maintaining behavioral standards for students. 53% agree that the student code of conduct is enforced consistently and fairly. And again, this is a frequent flyer on the lowest items list. Your district added several sections on customer service where respondents would check boxes indicating departments that they had interacted with this year. Based on those, they were shown an additional list of questions for each department. This began with central office, where 94% said the staff is courteous and respectful to them. 81% said that central office policies, forms, and information were easy to access. For technology, 92% of respondents said that tech staff is knowledgeable and helpful. 78% agreed that they get the training and technical support to use that available software and equipment. For special education, 83% agreed that they knew who to ask for help with problems or questions. And 73% said those policies, forms, and information were easy to access. Bilingual and ESL had a tie at the top for 82%, saying that staff is responsive to calls and emails, and that staff is knowledgeable and helpful to them. 73% agreed that policies, forms, and info are easy to access. Within guidance and counseling, we saw that 86% of respondents knew who to ask for help with problems or questions, and 73% said policies, forms, and info are easy to access. I'm seeing a trend with the policies, forms, and info. And of customer service items, that's often at the bottom, with courteous and respectful or knowledgeable floating to the top more often. For transportation, 84% said the staff is courteous and respectful, but only 46% agreed that regular bus routes run on schedule. For child nutrition, 87% agreed that staff is knowledgeable and helpful to them, and 75% said policies, forms, and info are easy to access. Comments and suggestions are the last big section on the survey. It's basically an open text area where respondents can type out anything else they want us to know. My team reads those, and we categorize it as positive, negative, or a suggestion across a variety of topics. We have over 50 topics that we look for on a regular basis, and as we're reading comments and things kind of float up for a specific district, we add those topics as they come up. So in your case, 492 people, or 19% of your respondents, left a comment. So it is a small subset, and it can often be paired with the earlier data that comes from a larger group to kind of highlight a specific area of concern. Accolades came from 160 of those people, and the most common accolade was that their supervisor is a strong leader. The most common complaints came from 401 employees, and the most common was base pay was too low. Suggestions came from 169 employees, and the most common was to increase staffing for student-facing positions rather than central office or administration. So what's next now that you have this information and the full report? We do advise you to dig deeper. I can provide you a report of numbers, but you know the programs and the students and the community that you are working in. You know campus administration changes that may have had a domino effect on supervisor or campus items. And so digging deeper into those results will help you understand them better and help you make a plan moving forward. Connect it to goals, both district level, superintendent, campuses, and those departments. You have customer service items that you can tie to individual departments and get a little extra mileage out of. And then set new goals moving forward and check back on this. It can definitely be an annual survey. We have clients that do that every year. Then the report and the presentation includes changes year to year where we talk about notable items. But sometimes the thing you want to check back on isn't district-wide, or it's not generally about employment and happiness. It's about a program, it's about a campus. For those, focus groups are a great tool to use. You solicit input from people that work in that program or campus, you get them in a room and allow them to talk about what happens. And from that, you can gather more specific examples and do a deeper dive in one area when it's needed. So I'm happy to take any questions about the information presented or the survey in general.
Yes, ma'am. The question was if I had the complete survey.
Oh, okay.
I do have the complete survey. I shared that with the board, with the, I've given it to several key individuals, and I've asked them to all share it with the staff. So all of ESAC got it so they could share it, and I'll thank you all for nodding your head. Yes, I appreciate it. So that has been shared. One of the comments that I got was that in the past, the survey was not shared with everybody. So I wanted to make sure that I shared it out. So I see a lot of people nodding their heads. So I shared it with ESAC, asked them to share it with all their staff. I shared it with all the principals. I shared it with numerous individuals, and that's our work for next year. To start really digging deeper and seeing how can we make changes. I've learned a lot of things that we could have quick fixes. For example, some individuals have shared with me just as supplies, that they need supplies, so I'm working to make sure that those things are covered. So the more that we dig and find out, we're going to make sure that those are addressed.
Okay. I realized too, it's on my tablet. It's on the tablet. The suggestion part is what I'm interested in, because that's the area where, you know, we can give people what they want because they ask. So, you know, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Ball, I just wanted to say, well, Ms. Guillory, let me just say thank you for what you did to put it all together. Thank you. It's very well done. And it's very precise. So my question's going to be to you is all of those areas where I see 60s, just to ask you what you're going to do, but you pretty much answered the question. You all are going to dig deeper. So my concerns are for those 60s, compensation and benefits, district leadership, student discipline.
Right. So what we do as part of ESAC when we come back is we're going to pick the 3 lowest. So we're going to chunk it out to make it manageable and doable. So through working with the team, and the team of ESAC is comprised of 1 individual, sometimes 2 from every campus, a department, and what we will do is do some work together so we all agree that these are the 3 that we want to address, whatever that comes from the group, and then start to look through that information with a fine-tooth comb and then start to make changes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion, anybody? Thank you, Ms. Guillory, so much. Thank you. I know it's a late night for you, but we appreciate it.
Quite all right. I appreciate it.
Moving on to item 6C, first reading of CDA local, other revenues and investments. Dr. Ball.
Yes, ma'am, that is just a first reading, so it is just right now just to provide the information so we can give the board plenty of time to look over that and then ask any questions. So that is just a first reading.
Does anyone have any discussion about the first reading? All right, we'll move on then. Item 6D, JECA yearly progress report.
Yes, ma'am, that's also just a report that we put in the packet that, of course, if anybody has any questions, you could definitely ask us, but that was information that was just provided to the board.
The preliminary 2019 EOC STAR scores for Judson ISD.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Davis has some information. Of course, this is just preliminary. We still are waiting lots more of the accountability information, but she will share some information with you. Yes, ma'am. It was in the packet, so we just provided that.
Good evening, board members, Madam Board President, and Dr. Ball. Today, we are happy to share our 2019 STAR and EOC preliminary scores. Again, the STAR EOC score percentages that you will see in this presentation include only our accountability students, and these include our scores for the April and the May administration only.
Excuse me, yes, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I would like to ask our audience, please, would you refrain from talking and take your conversation, please, out in the hallway. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yes, The STAR and EOC scores that you're about to see in this presentation are from our latest administrations provided in April and in May. They include only our accountability subset of students. So for example, what does that mean? It would exclude students that are first year in the United States. So that's the accountability subset, and those are the scores that you're seeing. Those are the scores that would be used for our accountability ratings that are going to be released in August. And so what you're just seeing right now are just the scores from the April and the May administrations that start in 3rd grade and move on up to high school. These are preliminary only because, again, the state will release all major files, all accountability ratings in August, so we're not talking about the accountability ratings. We just want to preface it that you're just viewing the scores at this time. They do include the SSI, what's known as SSI, which is 5th and 8th grade. They have a gatekeeper test in math and in reading, and students have multiple opportunities, and the best of is taken for the accountability. So it does include the first and the second administration within these scores that you're about to view. And then at the high school, we call them EOC scores, which you're going to see today, again, are our latest release scores provided that of the test taken back in May. And I say that because when we look at the accountability cycle, you're going to see that it includes scores back from the summer. But what you're seeing now are just the latest. Just some things to remember. The scores for STAR and EOC are included in the Student Achievement Domain 1. And for elementary and middle school, that's 100% of Domain 1. Domain 1 or Domain 2, when we talk about this again in August, the state takes the 70% of the best of student achievement or school progress. So the scores that we're focusing on today is on the student achievement piece. With that being said, we're going to take all of the scores for math, reading, science, social studies, and writing, and we're going to show you the student performance at the approaches grade level. If you take a look at the bar, you see some numbers. Those are the percentage of students that met at the approaches grade level. And right above the bar, I'm going to show you either the increase, the decrease, or where we stayed the same. So for example, when you're looking at the first bar, in math, that's all of the tests taken in math, 3rd grade all the way through Algebra 1. And so we had 77% of our students meet at the approaches grade level, which is what we know as passing. And so that remained neutral compared to last year. When you go to the second bar, in reading, we had our students, 71% of our students met at the approaches grade level. That's a 1% increase. In science, we see a 1% increase from last year at the approaches grade level. At social studies, we see a 5% increase from last year, and I will say that there was an extra focus in 8th grade because across the state, 8th grade has been low performing. And so we're very happy with the focus. We yielded results there. And in writing, we had a slight decrease of 1%, and we're going to talk about what actions we have in place so that we can address our areas of concern. So now we're going to look at the meets grade level. All this year we've been talking about how we need to focus student achievement for meets grade level or above. So when you look at the STAR performance, you have the passing, which is approaches. You have the meets, which means that students are ready for the next school year with very little remediation. And then you have the master's performance level, which the state views that as college ready. And so now we're looking at the meets grade level. What we saw on the previous slide was the approaches. You have mathematics at 43%. I will say that overall, we did see some good improvements at the meets and at the master's performance grade level. You can see there was an improvement of 3% across the district. And again, this is all tests taken together from 3rd through high school. And the reason we did that is because when we look at our accountability scores in August, that's how the state looks at it, right? So we want to look at it in the same manner. For reading, we remained neutral. In science, there was a 6% increase at the meets grade level. This speaks directly to the level of instruction. It indicates that students are performing their labs and that they're having a better understanding so that when they take the assessment, they're able to apply what they've learned and transfer the concepts learned. For social studies, again, at the meets grade level, we saw a 5% increase. At the meets grade level, we saw a 4% decrease, but may I remind you that for passing, we only saw a 1% decrease. Now we're looking at the master's grade level, and this is overall very good. We saw increases in math at 2%, in reading at 1%, in science, 2% increase, social studies, again, 4% increase. In writing, we remain neutral at the master's grade level. So what does that mean? We also wanted you to see a comparison of comparison of every grade level across every content area. And so this is what we look at from the district standpoint as a curriculum team, so that we know where to focus our professional development, so that we know where to help and provide greater support to campuses. And so campuses look at this as well, but they look at it from the teacher grade level. And so you can see what's highlighted in green are our increases. What's highlighted in yellow means we remain neutral compared to last year, and our decreases are highlighted in red, which looks pink here. And so in math, overall, we know that grade 4 is going to be an area of focus. And of course, we want to continue to increase our meets and our masters, and what you see there are definitely increases of 6%, 5%, 3%. In reading, again, grades 3 through English 2, I will say that in English 1 and English 2, this does include our writing. And again, we're showing you the same way that the state would show the scores. And so you can see our increases, you can see our ping points, and grade 4, both in reading and in math, are going to be a focus. More support is going to be provided in that area. Our curriculum is going to take a closer look at the student expectations and then be able to get more robust in that area. And that's where our technical support is going to lie as well. What you see here is writing. Remember that for English 1 and English 2, that included the writing scores. And here you're looking at writing by itself for grades 4 and grade 7. And this is an area of focus for our coming school year. And we'll talk about some things that we're going to be doing at the middle school level specifically and at the elementary in just a few minutes. What you see here is the science comparison by grade level. Grades 5, 8, and biology are the only grade levels that are tested. There was a concerted effort because last year there was just a neutral balance between the previous year. So there was a concerted effort to ensure that we provided the resources and that we provided the technical support. Our curriculum was very robust in the areas of student experimenting and students being able to apply those concepts, and you can see the gains, especially at the meets and the masters. And this is important because when we look at the accountability, this comes into play. So for social studies, we were very excited. This past school year, we had a social studies specialist that joined our team. We didn't have one before. She specifically focused in grade 8. We know that was a problem, not just in our school district, but across the state of Texas. And so we saw great increases there, and we're very happy for that. So this plan of action there are just some bulleted points that we're going to share with you that are in addition to what you have heard. You know that at the high school, we're going to implement our innovative schedule, and that is huge, and we know that that's going to play a great part in student performance because of all of the supports that are going to be offered there. So I'm not going to spend time talking about that, so these are new pieces. Over the summer, we have teachers who are joining our curriculum writing staff. All teachers were invited in April and in May to come to what we called year at a glance session so that they could provide their feedback, what worked, what didn't, what they'd like to see different. So teachers all have a voice in the development of our curriculum. We're not going to be using TEKS resource system anymore. We had it this past school year, just as we transitioned to a full year of curriculum documents, but now they are well prepared. And what's going to happen is we're just going to continue to vet them, we're going to continue to improve on them, and we're going to continue to include our teachers, because this is a grassroots curriculum, and it is them who will determine what it is that we need. And so there's different ways. I know not all teachers can attend after school, and I know that they make a great effort. There's different ways they can provide feedback too. We have a feedback button on our website where just as soon as they teach the unit, they can say, this didn't work for me, or I have some resources that I'd like to share across the district. So that was a big effort this year, and I think we're going to see results as we've seen in the meets and master's grade level. We are going to continue, but we're going to extend our partnership with the Central Texas Writing Project. It's a subsidiary of the National Writing Project. That's part of the grant that we are including with our ELLs at middle school for writing at that level. Last year, we focused it on middle school and in high school. And as you saw, and you did see an increase in English 1 and English 2. It wasn't broken down by reading and writing. But what Central Texas Writing Project does is it focuses on being able to include reading and writing and not just think of them in isolation. We read about what we write about what we read. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. It's been a while.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I mean, for me,
Yes.
when I was teaching, I took the New Jersey writing. Is this very much like New Jersey?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, this is part of that, yes, yes. And so we have a collaboration with them out of the Texas State, and that was part of the grant that was pulled earlier and was in discussion. And so what we're going to do this year, we focused on middle school and high school last year because those were our lowest performing, and so now we saw that elementary is also a need, so we're going to extend that as well. We're going to have professional development. This last year, we geared it very much toward an instructional focus, but as we reviewed the scores and as we've talked to teachers and as the C&I department has gone out, we know that there is a need to focus on classroom management, on trauma-informed, on affective domain, how to build those relationships with students, how to understand the problems that the students are going through. And so that's what our professional development this year, we're not going to stop what we're doing with instruction, but it's an added component that's just gonna have the same amount of focus. And in middle school, next year, we're starting our ELAR block. In the past, Judson has taught reading and writing separately in 6th and in 7th grade. Well, our new TEKS talk about the combination of that and integration of reading and writing. And so in alignment with the new TEKS and also with best practices, we are going to combine in 6th and 7th grade. We're no longer going to teach it in isolation, but we're also going to just teach it as a block. So it's going to be a 90-minute block for those 6th and 7th grade teachers. The professional development on that was led by Jeanette Deere, who has done a fantastic job in working with our secondary teachers, and she began that training with those teachers back in May, so that it's not all new in August. They developed a framework together. We're putting together a lesson plan. And so, again, we don't work in isolation. We work together with the teachers because that's who we're here to support. We did this year have instructional focus meetings with principals, and we're going to continue that. When we take our benchmarks, we analyze the data, and the question that we ask is, what can we do to support you? What do you need? Sometimes principals say, I need professional development for my campus on this, then we help secure that. Sometimes they say, can you help us do some instructional walks at our campus? Then that's what we do. They ask, I need more technical support from C&I to go help set up guided math stations, then that's what we do. And that's what the instructional focus meetings focus on, instruction, how to improve our instruction. And then finally, one of the things that we're going to do this year is we're going to do instructional rounds. We're going to invite principals and teachers from one campus to go visit principals and teachers from another campus, because we have pockets of excellence all across our district. And yes, we go to the outside, but why not start with what we have here? And so, and sometimes, you know, that's where the comfort feel is within each other. And we want to highlight our greatest teachers, we want to highlight our greatest principals, and we want to study. What are you doing? What are you doing? And we also want to show similarity between campuses. If you are a campus with similar demographics, but you performed this well in math and reading, what were you guys doing? How were you meeting? How do your PLCs look? Tell us about what your after-school meetings look like. And so all of these things are going to be studied at a greater depth through instructional rounds. And I do have an article that perhaps I will share with Dr. Ball, and maybe she can share with everyone. And so I do want to thank, I would be remiss if I did not thank the accountability team who is here. Ms. Nicole Taganaw is our accountability and testing director, and Ms. Rebecca Deffenbaugh is our accountability. Yes.
Because I also want to add that these ladies do a lot of things that other school districts do with software and computer programs. These ladies do it by hand. Yes. So thank you all very much for all your calculations and your long hours.
And so this concludes my presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Davis, on, let me get my glasses back on here. On the slide where you're talking about the partnership with Central Texas, their writing project.
Yes, ma'am.
And it says that there will be some coaching. Are they going to be sending someone over, or maybe students or something, to come and aid our teachers?
Yes, so let me tell you a little bit about what happened this year.
Okay.
We purchased coaching days from Central Texas Writing and nationally trained teachers, and they came into all of our middle schools and our high schools. And they came in, they sat with our teachers, they observed, they gave feedback, they debriefed with the teacher, they provided strategies, they modeled. And so, yes, we purchased those days, we took our teachers out, and we felt that those days were valuable, we provided subs. But then our teachers have the opportunity to get that direct feedback from the coach that is there, who's also a teacher in practice, and but of course highly trained to implement effective strategies for students at risk, for ELL learners, English language learners, for special ed students or students with special needs. And so that's the direct type of coaching that we implemented at the high school and at the middle school level. It was only with a certain group of teachers, those directly teaching writing. We know we need to expand it, and as a district, we need to start writing earlier. And so we're going to push, because our teachers have risen to those expectations, and so have our students.
So the, like, you know how we've been, well, I've been seeing a couple of things coming out of Austin, you know, saying Texas is bringing back cursive writing and stuff, so.
It is in the TEKS. It always was in the TEKS. It just moved to a different section that nobody read. But it's actually come back to the section that everybody reads, which is the student expectations.
Okay.
So yes, the practice of cursive writing is in the TEKS. But as you know, and I know you particularly asked about the writing test. And so not this coming school year. This coming school year, we're still going to have a writing test. But the year after, there will be no writing test.
Oh, okay.
Possibility. Well, yes, like Ms. Perez said, between what is discussed in the committee to what is finally signed may change. But yes, that is the possibility.
The truth.
Yes, ma'am.
But that doesn't mean writing should go away. It's a skill altogether. I didn't have
Amen.
to say that.
Thank you.
I do want to say thank you so much for all this effort that you've gone to. I know that our curriculum, the teachers who are working on rewriting curriculum, especially in the ELAR with the new TEKS coming on board, have done an amazing job. They've been in there. I got to go in and say hello and thank you to some of them one day when I was up here. So I do want to compliment you on making sure that we have good resources available for our teachers. I'm especially excited about the ELAR block in middle school, having taught 7th grade English and trying to coordinate with 7th grade reading teachers to make sure that we're not stepping on each other's toes and yet everything was covered is really difficult. So I think that that's going to be a wonderful change for our students and hopefully not too much pain and change for our teachers. So thank you for that. I hope they're excited.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Macias.
Thank you for the presentation. And how do these scores compare with our neighboring districts? Has that assessment been made?
That assessment will be presented to you in August when the final accountability ratings. Remember that last year, our district was rated a Met standard. And so this year, we're going to receive a letter grade. But that letter grade's not going to be released until August. And when that letter grade is put out, we will see everybody's.
Well, and I understand that, but it's preliminary, so how does our preliminary data compare to other preliminaries? Just don't know if that has been evaluated.
Since it is preliminary, right now most school districts aren't sharing too much. You know, they're waiting to get confirmation as to what that final accountability will be.
Well, I certainly appreciate the information. It looked really good, but I mean, naturally, it's part of the picture. So I'll look forward to the information in August.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you all very much.
Is there any other discussion? Oh, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. We're moving on to item 6F, discuss district-wide after-school programming strategies and support. Mr. Macias?
There's a lot to say, but I'm going to be brief on it. The main reason that I put this on here was because we had some concerns from parents last year regarding the after-school programming at our middle schools, and I remember getting an influx of concerned parents not having service. So there are a lot of things that we've discussed in our time, and there certainly will be more opportunity. But just to answer that issue itself specifically, have we taken care of that for this next school year?
Well, one of the things that I can tell you is that we set aside about $1.1 million for each campus to have to use with their needs assessment to decide if after-school tutoring is better, if some type of maybe reading academy intervention is better. So we did set aside a chunk of money so each campus can address the needs that they see.
And to include middle school, elementary,
yes.
the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So we are then trying to address parents' needs that require after-school care for their children.
I would say what we're trying to do is address the needs of the students, not so much as an after-school, just an after-school program, but a program that's based on the needs of the students.
Well, and I think that's a very good way to go. But I do want to ensure that we're offering opportunities for all of our students to have this. When you state it that way, in my opinion, is that it may be really specialized. But if it's general, I mean, there are parents that are at work, they have to work, and they need support. So I feel like if we can offer that and give the opportunity for tutoring, or for, we should. So is it going to be expansive enough to include many of our students, all of our students, or just a portion?
It's really hard to say. I would hope that it would include a great majority of them. Some of them will be based on need, such as academic need. We've also built into the schedule some of the other things that we want to enhance. For example, UIL at elementary with a stipend for the teacher, robotics at elementary with a stipend for the teacher. So something more comprehensive than just tutoring. So we are looking at doing those things.
And I do recall elementary was not the biggest issue. There were other avenues. It was middle school specifically, students not having opportunities to do things when we cut the program. So I was with the Boys and Girls Club, right? Am I correct?
Correct, but I just want to remember, we didn't cut the program. Right.
It depends. It's who you talk to. But bottom line, we just want to make sure that we're offering something to our parents in the middle school specifically. And I guess your answer seems to say affirmative, but I just want to make sure that that is indeed affirmative.
To address specifically Boys and Girls Club, about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, Dr. Cantu and I met with 2 individuals from the Boys and Girls Club to see if there would be a possibility to gain that program back, but they specifically told us no. They said they did not have the funding for it.
Okay, well,
and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Cantu.
Yes,
If I remember correctly, Dr. Ball, that is correct. And one of the things that they talked about was United Way was one of their biggest funders, and United Way restructured their allocations to different entities, and so they were cut completely. So they do not have the funds.
Well, and I can respect that. In the theme of choosing Judson ISD, parents may go elsewhere if there are other programs for that middle school component. It's a very critical years in middle school. So I'd be open to see what other options there may be for that. But at the end of the day, when I start meeting with PTO presidents starting in August, September, I'd like to know that we are offering support for their children. So I may bring this back up then, but we have time to at least try to address that.
Any other discussion? Item 6G, discuss collaboration with pre-K for SA. Mr. Macias.
Just looking for feedback from Dr. Ball. I know that she may have met with the administrators there.
Yes, I did meet with her, and then I met with staff. We still have the capacity to continue to enroll more pre-K students. We still have empty slots, if you want to say empty slots, but we have the capacity in our buildings to have more pre-K students. So at this time, we don't feel that we need to partner with them. If we were to partner with them, they do charge us a little over $3,000 per student. So our feel is that until we reach a capacity that we can't take any more students, we can still enroll all our students here for pre-K.
I have a question, Mr. Macias.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to know, first of all, what your intent was when you put this on the agenda, what you had intended for our district to do in collaboration with San Antonio.
I wanted Dr. Ball to explore the viability of a pre-K for SA. My understanding is pre-K for SA not only takes students that are economically disadvantaged, but students who are prepared and willing to pay for their enrollment within the pre-K for SA facility. And my understanding too was that we were actually paid from pre-K SA a certain amount. There was a cost of $3,000, but I think they paid us $600 for every student that was there. And so in addition to that, they also allocate almost $250,000 in professional development for our teachers. So I thought certainly those opportunities could be beneficial because our pre-K program only serves those that are economically disadvantaged. So it's not taking every student. So if we collaborate with Pre-K for SA, we're building a collaborative that will help us even retain students. Because now that we have parents paying to go to Pre-K for SA, they may be persuaded to go to other campuses or other districts. So the discussion was to really find out from Dr. Ball if she had done her assessment and had the conversation with the school. So I'm kind of surprised to see that we would be billed $3,000. We lose $3,000, but they pay us $600. I mean, there's still revenue coming in, but the professional development part I thought was a very invaluable piece that we wouldn't have to expense. It's $250,000 they would pay for us. So the intent was to talk a little bit more about that, and so I'll follow up with you, Dr. Ball, on that. I'm a little disappointed that you felt there was no potential collaborative. We're not in a silo, so I think it's important that we collaborate. But there are still students that will not qualify for our pre-K program that Pre-K for SA will serve. And so as a result, we should be working with them.
The other observation that I wanted to make, Mr. Macias, is that going back to when this program started in SA, Pre-K for SA, I do remember Mayor Castro at that time saying that this was going to be a program that was within a time period. This program was being funded within a certain time period, and then it was going to have to go back out to the voters. So that 5 or 6 years, whatever time period that initially was established on that program in San Antonio is now going to come up for vote again. And if it does, then, and it does not pass, let's just be the devil's advocate and say, if that program does not pass with the voters, then we don't have a program to collaborate with. So I see no need in us doing, particularly support that because San Antonio doesn't know if they're going to be able to continue their program. We, on the other hand, have room to accept those from San Antonio to come to Judson and to our program because we have lots of spots. That was the point that I wanted to make.
Well, and the 100 or so students that are not economically disadvantaged that choose to go to pre-KSA, they're going to be recruited by charter schools. They're going to be recruited by other districts for other programs, and we've certainly just cut ourselves out from having that collaborative with those parents. So if it does go forward, I mean, and I'm not here, I don't know what the future holds with the program. This is a current, right now, what's happening. And so I trust Dr. Ball did her research, and so if she's feeling it's not viable, well, I'll do some follow-up and we'll figure out what to do next. That's it.
If the board would like for me to research, I do know that there are some very community members, and we're very interested too. If the board would like for us to also accept students that do not qualify for pre-K, but do it on a tuition based, we're very interested in doing that. If that's the decision that the board would like for me to look into and start to address, because we're ready, willing, and able to take them all.
Well, and I honestly just, since I put this on the agenda, would echo that I would be in agreement with that. That would certainly then put us on equal footing, and that if parents still choose pre-K for SA, then we have other issues. But we should be able to offer that opportunity. And if they're paying tuition there, they certainly would then pay tuition for this district.
We'll immediately get on that, because that sounds like a great opportunity for our district to have students. And I know that there's parents that when we did the registration, that they were interested in attending our school district and paying tuition. We'll bring that immediately.
So that will be a future agenda item?
Yes, ma'am, if that's okay with the board.
And that
Fine.
assists with the ADA, right?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. All right. We are up to item 6H, update on board advisory committees. I would like to make a little disclaimer before anybody gives a report and say that this would be a good time to identify what our committees are and allow any board member that would like to change the committee that they're serving on and serve on another one. Or what we really need to do is allow our newest board member to decide whether or not what committee she would like to serve on. Our committees are
Strategic Planning, the Finance Committee, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee, and am I forgetting one? The Bond and Building. And I could be mistaken, but I thought, Ms. Bettis, that you wanted to be on the Strategic Planning Committee. Am I incorrect?
I definitely would like to serve on the Finance.
Finance,
Committee.
okay.
Finance.
And, strategic planning.
Okay.
I would throw out, I don't know if one has ever existed, and maybe this is something we can discuss at our retreat, but I think, based on just the things that I've heard tonight, that having a legislative committee might be something that would be very helpful for our school district to have. And I very much would want to be a part of that if that ever came into fruition.
We could entertain that as an agenda item for our retreat. I like that. Okay, so let me just go to Ms. Canoyer. I'll just go down the row and we'll do a roll call. So Ms. Canoyer, would you like to remain on the committees that you're serving or change?
I'd like to remain on curriculum and instruction, and I'm happy to fill in if there's another committee that we need another person for.
Okay. Mr. Macias, I'm sorry, I don't know what committee you're serving on, sir.
I'm on the long range planning and the bond committee, and I'll serve wherever there's a need. But I'm gonna, if I could be like Suzanne, I go to all of them. She goes to all of them. I think so all of them. But wherever there's a vacancy, I mean, I have no preference. I'm happy to serve in any capacity on any committee.
Then may I put you for long range since you're okay? Is there any other that you would like to serve on, or?
Okay. Mr. LaFoyle, you want to stay with the bond and, oh, you're not? Oh. Ms. Eaton?
I will stay on my curriculum
Okay.
and instructional committee, and I'd like to be on the building.
The bond and building?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, I'm gonna build something.
What I will do is attend all of those meetings. I had been attending the bond and building committee and the finance committee. I'll continue to go to those, but when we bring up this new committee on legislative, that's the one I want to serve on.
Why don't you put me down for finance also then? And I'll
Okay.
do curriculum and finance.
Curriculum and finance, Canoyer. So I want to go over this, and especially for the record for Ms. Saldivar. Strategic planning, right now we have Ms. Perez.
And Macias.
And Mr. Macias. Long-range planning. Oh, long-range and strategic are the same?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
I call it strategic and you,
I did not realize
and
that.
you guys call it long range.
I did not realize, okay, okay.
We don't have Ms. Rodriguez on here. Right.
And what did she serve on?
She was on
Long
strategic
range,
planning.
yes.
Yeah. That's okay, we can have three, right?
Yes. All right, Ms. Saldivar, so for long-range / strategic planning, we've got Ms. Perez, Mr. Macias, and Ms. Rodriguez. Finance, Ms. Perez, Ms. Canoyer, Ms. Pichelle. Bond and buildings, Mr. Macias, Ms. Eaton, Ms. Pichelle. You can put Pichelle on all of them. Curriculum and instruction, Ms. Canoyer and Ms. Eaton. All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to, oh.
I just wanted to pass these out.
Oh, okay. And that brings us to letter I, update on board training, conferences, events, and consider future agenda items request by board members. So I'll start down on the end with Ms. Perez. Do you have any updates on training, conferences, and you went to SLI in Dallas?
Yeah, like I said, just came straight from SLI, first one. Again, just have an opportunity to interface with so many different districts. I'm, just very, again, honored to be among this group because we really do have a good thing going on at Judson ISD.
All right.
And so let's just keep on making it and taking it to higher heights.
Thank you. Ms. Canoyer?
I attended SLI for part of the time, but I do want to brag on the team that went to Austin, and I was with that group, to protest a charter school that's opening up in Judson, or intends to open in Judson ISD. And thank you. Unfortunately, we weren't successful, and the State Board of Educators approved that charter. So when you're thinking about who you're going to vote for State Board of Educators, because they're elected, and I keep getting on my soapbox about you got to get out, you got to research who they are, you got to vote for people who support public education. We can't continue to vote against our own interests. So I do want to thank the whole team who went. It was all the senior staff. We had a parent who attended as well to speak on behalf of the district. I thought we made powerful arguments, and I'm extremely disappointed in how the process went. But I do thank everybody who attended.
And I just want to piggyback and say kudos to all of you who went. Thank you very much for fighting for that, although it was to no avail, but at least we did stand up for, right. Mr. Macias?
No, I don't have anything at the moment to offer, although that I did enjoy the summer leadership and had an opportunity to sneak my daughter into it. So it's just really good to kind of show she's a senior in high school, and there's a lot going on that that she doesn't get a chance to see. So it was good to see everyone out there. Good conference.
Mr. LaFoyle? Ms. Eaton?
I was at the Summer Leadership Conference, and very, very informative. I had some good classes, and I really liked some of the work that's being done with our special needs children. Learned a couple of things, and I understand that, I think it's in September, that we're going to Dallas for the SOL.
I don't remember the acronym for it, but it's, the
Yeah, it's
TASB conference.
TASB in Dallas.
TASA, TASB.
TASA, TASB.
I tell you, school districts are just like the military with them acronyms, boy. Woo. But we'll be going to that in September, I believe. Okay. TASA,
TASA, TASB. All right.
And I'd just like to remind all the board that this is a required training. So this is required. You do have options of the dates, but there are 2 days that are specifically in San Antonio unless you wanted to travel to either Kerrville, Uvalde, Floresville, Pearsall, or Eagle Pass. But I would highly encourage the 2 days. So if you want to just fill this out on the dates and you can give it to Rose, we'll get you registered. But this is required training.
And just for those that may be watching, what Dr. Ball is talking about is the legislative update, in order for us to be able to get our training on the legislative update. Thank you. So board, make sure you make your selections.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there's just one. At this time, we will proceed into closed section. Item 7A, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, discuss personnel report and updates, including new hires, resignations, and administrative appointments. And B, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, the board will consult with its legal counsel regarding pending litigation and possible settlement offer for the matter styled Mercedes Fuller versus Judson ISD, cause number 2018C 1185075 in the District Court, 285th Judicial District, Bexar County, Texas. We will adjourn at 8:45.